today. That's that. Hokey cokey. So those on Clubhouse, can you hear me okay? In fact, there's no chat box or anything, so I'm just gonna assume yes. Again, like normal, if you have any questions whatsoever, please just pop your hand up and I'll give you the mic. Right. Okay, so getting almost 12 o'clock and we'll start very soon. Okay, yep, 12 o'clock on my clock. Hey everyone, thanks for being here. Good to see you all. I know for those on Facebook Live, got another location. My internet is really doing my head in and I cannot wait until Starlink sends me the satellite dish because, yeah, so I'm sort of squatting in one of my team's desks at the moment in the annex. Yeah, so like normal, feel free to pop your questions in the Facebook chat if you have any. And again, with the Clubhouse, just pop your hand up. I won't bite, promise. But before that, I've got a couple of questions which I've been asked, and I said I'd cover it today. So the first one, and I think it'll be a very quick answer because I don't actually have the full. I don't know is the answer, but basically, they're asking about when crypto are going to start replacing mortgages. And as I said, the answer is I don't know, but there are a lot of crypto lending platforms out there right now which are eagerly about to sort of gobble up the mortgage industry. Because mortgages are a bit of an incumbent industry and it's pretty shit. So most industries over the years, they tend to streamline and improve, etc. But the mortgage industry has been pretty pants for pretty much forever. I mean, how much of a ball ache is it to get a loan these days? First of all, you have to give every piece of information about your life to your inside leg measurements, to everything, before, and then you're submitted to a panel to see if you're credit worthy and they look at your income and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, please sir, can I have more? And it's rather frustrating. And I've seen all sorts of horror stories of, people trying to buy a house, it's taken months and months, and in the last minute, they think it's completed and then it's fallen through, or there's some sort of lending issue, and it's just a bit of a nightmare. And one of the things I've been saying a lot for a long time is that DLTs, so distributed ledger technologies, the secret weapon of crypto is that it just kills all middlemen. And what is the mortgage industry? It's just a bunch of middlemen. When you're buying a house, how many freaking middlemen do you have to deal with? And what middlemen entails are costs. So what will happen with crypto is that we'll just get rid of estate agents and all the middlemen in between. Now, in terms of crypto lending, which is more specifically the question, Aave, which is a platform which I'm playing around with quite a lot at the moment, has the mortgage industry on its eyes in its sights or targets. And I've never ever had such a quick and easy loan experience. And I've done 2 crypto loans with Aave so far. So the first one is I think I deposited something like 30 Ether onto the Aave platform, and I borrowed I think like 9 Ether or something like that. The numbers escape me, and that took like 2 or 3 minutes. I videoed all of it, and I shared it in my community. And the thing is with the Aave loans, because you're stumping up all of the collateral, there's no risk for the platform. They just take their little APY, and it is tiny. I mean, I think that it was a variable rate APY, but it was something like 2%. It was nuts. And yeah, so if shit hits the fan, the platform doesn't get hit because if your loan gets into sort of a spot of bother in terms of the health score, they just liquidate the loan and they use your collateral to liquidate that loan. And so it's pretty cool. And then I tried it again. So the other, I think it was like last week or sometime like that, I deposited 75 Ether into Aave and borrowed I'm going to do 2 lots of borrowing. So the first chunk was I borrowed 15 ether, and I'm going to borrow another 15 ether pretty soon. And it literally takes minutes. No ID, no questions, no one like having to see if you're worthy. It's just great. And so when that takes on the mortgage industry, the incumbents are going to be absolutely screwed. Much like how car companies are absolutely dead in the water now because of Elon. So that's my answer for that question. The second question was about the eurozone. So I apologise, I can't log out. I can't swap apps on my phone because I'm holding my proper phone and I've got the silly iPhone on a tripod for Clubhouse. So I can't actually look at my Twitter. But it's a Twitter question basically, and. He said, is it likely that the EU is going to break up and then go back to all its old currencies, etc.? Now, again, the answer to that is I don't know. However, history is always our best indicator for the future. So I think a lot of people get confused about that FCA, financial advisory quote, where they go, past performance is not an indicator of future performance. And you have, again, context is everything. So that quote, past performance is not an indicator of future performance, is relevant to funds and fund managers and stuff like that. So yeah, that's obviously, or in my eyes, that's obvious. But when it comes to sort of the geopolitical macro environment, then the past is exactly the best teacher you can ask for. I mean, there's that saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes really freaking well, but normally with a sinister tune or tone. And so when you look back at and so when you're sort of doing these big macro sort of investing pictures, you need to expand your horizon. So a lot of people, when they're looking at investments, they tend to they're a bit myopic, and people look at the last 5 or 10 years performance and then base their opinions on stuff. But when you're looking at the big picture, you need to open it up to sort of a 200-year outlook. 200-year, 50-year look, and then you can start seeing some mega trends, and that's where sort of demographics come into play. But when you're looking at the eurozone, there's a pretty cool video on YouTube. Just type something like "borders changing in Europe history" or something like that, and it will be like something like 1,000 years of all the borders of every country in Europe sped up. And you'll see that the borders in Europe change so frequently, it's ridiculous. It's like Europe doesn't sit still. Borders are always changing, there's always disputes, blah, blah, blah. And the EU, or the European Union and all that, is always an experiment. It still is an experiment. It's not like an official, yes, it is an official thing, but it has always been an experiment. And this experiment, I think, is close to ending at some point. I don't know when. And when I say close, I'm looking at this with the big picture. So close could be within 10 years, 20 years. That's still like quick picture. And so, yeah, I think the EU as we know it won't last. I think what's more likely going to happen at some point, again, in the near future, within the next sort of 20 years, there will be some sort of one world government, one world currency, one world police force, one world military, all that sort of stuff. That's where we're going to. We are sort of moving towards a bit of a socialistic world. So that will happen. Now, what will happen with the currencies? So the scenario which I don't think will happen is that we'll have a proper Grexit, Frexit, Italicit, whatever they call it. And I don't think all of a sudden every country in the EU will go back to its old, currencies like the Deutschmark and the Krona and the lira and all that sort of stuff. I think the transition will be into, the one world currency of some sort. Or I think what may happen is it will have like the digi-euro. So the ECB will still be in power, pushing out the European Central, the digi-euro. The Federal Reserve will be pushing out the digi-dollar, Bank of England, digi-pound, etc. So I think we will probably consolidate a lot of currencies and powers into big consolidated ones, and so we'll have just a basket of a handful of central bank currencies, because we will honestly, I promise you, I'll put any amount of money on this that we will move into a cashless society within the next 10 years. Later this year, you'll start seeing a massive push into anti-cash. The first little stepping stone happened, I think, today. I think they're upping the contactless to, was it £100? And that's just one little baby step. And a lot of people don't see this, but we will end up in a cashless world, which is good and bad, depending on which aspect you're looking at it from. So, they're my two sort of long answers to those sort of questions. Now, another question which I'm going to answer is from Louise. So Louise, I don't think she's here today. I can't see who's in the Facebook Live stuff. But Louise messaged me, and she has she wants to set up a subscription-based business, okay? And she's a really good interior designer. Now, I'm not going to get into that sort of sector because I don't know anything about it. But what I do know are subscription-based businesses. 5 of my current businesses right now are subscription-based or payment plan businesses. And the question, I mean, there was a bunch of questions, but I think the main question was, where do I start? Like, it seems like you have to make so much content if you're going to have like an info product, like an information subscription-based sort of business. And the answer is not as much as you think. So if we go back to the realistic trader, so the RT has been going on since sort of 2013, and I had the same dilemma. Like, I had a lot of trading knowledge in my head because I'd been trading up to, I don't know, probably like 12 years up to that point. And I didn't know how to consolidate it down into, you know, what are the logical... So I sort of had the logical steps, but I wasn't sure what the learning journey or the desired learning journey of the students would be. And instead of just wasting months and months and months making loads and loads of content, I just did the sort of evergreen model. So what I did is I wanted to get paid to create the content. And anyone can do this. I mean, this is such... like, this isn't an original idea. This has been around for donkey's years. But basically, you should always try and get yourself into the mindset, if you're setting up a business, is that how can I get something for break even, or how can I get paid to do something? And so when I applied that question to, you know, how can I get paid to create my content, the logical answer was, okay, let's sell the product and build it after you sold it. Okay, so what I did was I set up a 6-week weekly live sort of a webinar teaching thing. And I held, well, first of all, I set up a quiz. Oh no, it was like a sort of questionnaire, which is, because I didn't know, did people want to learn how to trade online? Because it seemed a bit weird. I mean, back now, everyone's doing it, but back in sort of 2013, online trading courses, it was, you know, there were some around, but it wasn't as big as it was today. So I just wasn't sure. So I had like a 10-question survey. I asked a whole bunch of questions which I wanted answers for, you know, how much would you pay for it, what would you like, blah, 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 blah. And I drove Facebook ads to that quiz and got 100 people. And then I looked at all the answers of what all the 100 people said, and I was like, okay, cool. And so a week later, I emailed them all and went, hey, everyone, thanks for doing the quiz or survey. Good news, we now have a 6-week intensive trading live course, whatever, I don't know what I called it, and I looked at the price points, etc., and I just made it super cheap, because remember, everything you do in business should be data gathering exercise. So you shouldn't aim to try and come out of the bat with, you know, the perfect model, because you don't know. Everything is a data collection exercise, and you're split testing. Well, you should be if you're not. And so I priced it very cheaply. I think it was like £347 or something silly like that. And the crazy thing is, 48 people bought. So I can't do the math. Lewis, so what's 347 times 48? Can you just calculate that, please, mate? I can't do that on both phones at the moment. 16,656. Cool. So what happened straight off that, because 48 people bought it, that was £16,656 up front, and I had no product. And the reason I wasn't sort of bricking myself is because all I needed to do was keep 1 week ahead. So all I had to do was create, right, and every Wednesday, I remember it was every Wednesday night at like 7 o'clock for 2 hours. And so all I had to prepare was the first 2-hour webinar training session. So I would teach. I'd take loads of questions, and what I was doing at the same time, every single question I was that was being asked, I was writing it down, and later on I timestamped that question. Because when someone asks you a question, if they're learning, what that means, so some people go, "Oh, you're so stupid, we're not listening, blah, blah, blah," and that is the wrong sort of mindset and attitude as a teacher. As a teacher, if someone asks you a question, what's happened is that you have screwed up. That is what it should be. At school, doing home courses, whatever. If you're teaching something and someone asks you a question, that is an error in the user learning journey. Because what that means is you haven't explained something well enough up until that point. And so the reason I was timestamping, as in after the session, I was timestamping, like, someone to say, what is a candlestick at 10 minutes or whatever. And so the way I looked at that feedback was, okay, evidently I wasn't good enough at teaching what a candlestick is and the relevance of it all. And so I will spend a little bit more, an extra 2 minutes explaining candlesticks. And I put in all of these adjustments. And so, like a little note, so the next time I hold week 1 training session, I'll do this amendment, this amendment, this amendment. And I did this whole 6-week course, and I was taking down all the questions, the time stamping, blah, blah, blah. And it was great. And so I've effectively got paid to create all of the content. I had 6 weeks worth of content and all of the alterations. And then I just ran the whole thing again. I got another people to do that quiz, that survey thing. Then I, sold it, afterwards. I think I didn't get such a good hit rate because I think it was a very warm list that did the first bunch. Because I think in the second time round, out of 100 people that did the survey, probably like 15 people bought. But anyway, the second time round, when I was doing exactly the same teaching but with all my little edits, I was noting to see if the same questions popped up. So, at 10 minutes, did someone ask about candlesticks? No. Sweet. Okay. So imagine a straight line, from A to B. If people are asking questions, that line is being deviated all around. So the edits to your course need to basically be like trying to smooth that line. Obviously, new questions popped up, and if new questions popped up, that's probably because of the alterations and or the edits that you've done to the course. So to me, it was just a massively fascinating experience, and split testing and blah, blah, blah. To the point now, sort of 8 years onwards, the course that we have is extremely logical. You will always get questions. But even now, today, when I get a question, I still go through the mental thought process of going, Siam, you screwed up here. What have you not done? Why is someone asking this question? And sometimes it's just a one-off, because people don't listen, I mean, especially if you have a training video more than 20 minutes long, people are going to switch off, and then they won't listen, then they'll ask a question. So again, even if that happens, that's still feedback for you going, your videos are too long or too boring. It's one of the two. I guess, but then there's another way of looking at it going, there's no such thing as too long, it's too boring. I mean, have you ever watched a really good movie that's like 2.5 hours long? Like, basically for me, any Marvel movie. Like, I'm gripped. I love Marvel. Yes, I'm like a film yob, but I love Avengers and Infinity War and all that. Mind you, the last movie I watched, which was like 2.5 hours, I think was like Tenet, and I didn't have a clue what was going on in that movie. And even after watching loads of like spoiler explainer videos on YouTube after that, my brain still hurts thinking about it, doing temporal assaults. Anyway, if you haven't watched Tenet, watch it, but don't get... Yeah. So, going back to Louise's question, how much content do I need to make? You don't need to make your whole course, Louise. Just keep 1 week, do your first week, teach the first week's worth, and at the end of that first week, or that 2-hour webinar session, or whatever it may be, ask the students, go, hey, how was it? What questions do you have? What would you like to learn next week? So you can actually just ask what they want to learn and then give what people want. At the end of the day, you are a servant. if you're in the sort of information, no, if you're a business owner, full stop, and you're giving services or products to other people, other businesses, you are a servant, and your job is to serve. And that's not a bad thing. Some people sort of have weird issues about being called a servant or whatever, and we'll get over your own ego. There's nothing wrong with that. You're serving people, and the more people you serve, the richer you become. Blah blah blah. I mean, Bezos, one of the richest people on the planet, does he serve people? Yeah, like everyone. I sort of hate shopping now if it's not on Amazon Prime. I can't even be asked to go to other websites now because I know I'll have to create an account, put my card details in, and it's it's just so easy on Amazon. So yeah, so he is worth his net value because he has really changed a lot of people's lives, whether you like it or not. I think personally he's a bit of a douchebag, but yeah. So so there are those questions. I mean, are there any questions? Any questions on Clubhouse, first of all? Any hands up? Please pop your hand up. But whilst I'm waiting for hands popping up, I'm going to scroll through this feed and look at the questions. So Stuart, hey mate, what's the benefit of putting Ether to lend Ether? What am I missing? Oh yeah, what you're missing is that when I borrowed the Ether, the 15 Ether or whatever it was, I'm not keeping it in Ether because eventually you've got to pay that back. And then even if Ether goes to the moon, you still got to then pay that back. So it's basically an Ether arbitrage. So I then took that Ether and split it between Cardano, Polkadot, and Chainlink. And gas. So those four. And so this works if basically, one or four of those do better than Ether. I mean, you don't have to park Ether, you can just park something else. What you could do is you could get your Ether, convert it into something which you think is not going to appreciate as fast as, say, Ether, and then you deposit that like a stable coin, like DAI or whatever. And then you borrow Ether, and then just sit in like that, because Ether's going to do really well. So I'm still tweaking and playing around with my Aave stuff. But yeah, as I said, I buy the dip and I borrow the dip, because then you sort of... the tail risk isn't as bad. Whereas if you're borrowing, at the top of a surge, things get a bit tricky. Right, Alexander says, hi Simon, I have two questions. One, please tell if there are any reasons, even or percentage, for crypto not to raise this... sorry, my brain's not working. Please tell if there are any reasons for crypto not to raise this year as you predicted in some of your videos. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm extremely bullish with crypto. Just look at one of my last YouTube videos where I said why I'm expecting at least $100,000 Bitcoin, $20,000 Ether, and $5 Cardano. The two models you really need to look at with crypto are the logarithmic regression curve on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin stock to flow model. They're always correct. You don't need to dick around with any other model. They're always correct. After you squeeze... Oh, by the way, if there is a market crash, as in the stocks start rolling over, crypto will fall with it. They will, but it will be a temporary fall before we have that disconnect. 2, after you squeeze everything, what do you want from crypto rally up? Where are you going to move your money to? Property, silver, else? Yeah, that's a good question. So you do need an exit plan. So for me, once we get to... I don't actually have any Bitcoin. Everything is in all other stuff. But once we get to about $100,000 Bitcoin, I'm then going to start scaling out. And I'll scale out into cash initially. It depends, because I've got a few things that I want to buy. Some businesses that I want to set up, etc. So for me, capital is always it's just a means to an end. Okay, I don't love money. People, think that in order to be rich, you've got to love money. You don't. It's just you need I think people that do well have things that they want to do. And how do you do shit, especially on a big scale? You need money. So for me, I look at money as like the oil that greases your economic engine. So I'm not in love with it. I don't really give a shit about it. I just let it flow freely, and I just sort of treat it like a video game. And for example, like Stuart Miles, he's our newest member in our Age of Empires WhatsApp group, and we played yesterday. So I hope you don't mind me saying this, Stuart. So at the end of the game, it turned out Stuart had 1 town centre, I had 6. The way I look at everything is just I guess is from a logical point of view. So if Stuart has one town centre that pops out a new villager every 30 seconds, let's say, and I have 6 town centres all popping out a villager every 30 seconds, I basically get 6 villagers every 30 seconds, and those 6 villagers can mine more gold, chop wood, get berries, whatever, compared to his one. And that's how I treat money and business. That's why I've got lots of different businesses. So having said that, not all the businesses are doing well, by the way. It's a mixed bag. Some businesses are bleeding cash, some are doing all right, and some are doing well. So yeah. So for me, yeah, this video is not, I think, the right video to talk about what I'm going into, but I will be extracting back to fiat. But eventually, over the next 5-10 years, it will be a case of like where you won't want to exit back to fiat. Like, I mean, hell, if in 5 years' time we're still getting crazy ROI or crazy levels with crypto, and we're seeing high inflation or hyperinflation in some parts of the world, you really don't want to get into fiat currencies. So, we have a hand up. Hey, Kent Mitchell, you have a mic. So,
how you doing?
Hey, Kent. Thanks for popping up your hand. How can we help today?
Yeah, good question. So, out of all your businesses, do you buy them entirely, or do you take stakes in them?
I take stakes. So, if you go to my YouTube channel, there is a playlist on it called social, like wealth generation chats. Basically, every one of these daily chats I record and I put onto YouTube. And in that playlist, there are 3 mergers and acquisitions ones. And in those videos or those sessions, I've covered extensively how I do it. But in a quick nutshell, I typically buy. I get 35% of a new business, simply because I do not want to dick around with the operational bullshit of a business. Because like I'm looking at your profile right now, investor, business owner. Yeah, like businesses are simply just massive shit magnets. They're just full of problems. Every business, I don't care what. Like you can look at Amazon, which looks like an amazing business. I guarantee you they have epic, ungodly amounts of shit that they have to go through every day. So when you're buying a business, a lot of people ignore that and they go, yeah, they look at the money and then they really don't understand the downside. And there's lots of downsides to buying businesses. So for me, I like getting 35% of the business and keeping the director there so they can continue growing the business. They still have, a good chunk of their own business, and they're incentivized to keep on growing it. And then I can sit very quietly in the background, not meddling, just slowly tweaking and doing some puppeteering type stuff. But yeah, I buy businesses via call options, so it's way cleaner. But yeah, so please have a look at those videos. There's a lot there.
Sounds good. Sounds good. It was just really how you kind of managed to take that stake. I take it you're obviously increasing their profitability and stuff like that for that stake.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But basically, in a nutshell, we have these profit hurdles, and then if I grow the business beyond a certain hurdle, then I get 35% of their business for free, effectively, in a quick nutshell. So
yeah, you don't put any cash in.
Nope, not anymore. I've wasted so much money buying businesses with cash. One of the worst acquisitions I did was in March 2020. Literally, it was like a week before lockdown. I bought this business. I actually stumped up 50 grand in cash. And then lockdown, and then the business got hit hard, and I'm like, that 50 grand could have.
Well, I've got 2 restaurants as well, so.
It's nuts. I'm closely tied with the restaurant as well, and like we've had to pivot crazily into deliveries.
Yeah, deliveries.
Yeah, which is.
And then you just give a third of it to Deliveroo or Just Eat.
Oh no! See, that's the thing. You got to bypass that. If you can get your...
We've done the same. We've bypassed. Well, we kind of used Just Eat for a good while, and I'm still doing one of the restaurants just to transfer them over as we're delivering the food.
Yeah.
You use your own app.
Yeah, definitely. And then that's the way forward, because before lockdown with that restaurant, we were only doing something like $2,000 a week on takeaways, and we've we 4x'd it, so we're now doing £8,000 a week on takeaways.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking which platform you use now for your app?
It's not an app. It's just a simple website. So we've driven traffic. I've hyper-targeted Norwich, because that's where the restaurant is. So only people in Norwich within a certain age range that like Thai food. No, Asian food. And we've basically said, hey, give us a call, blah, blah, blah. And what we also did was we tried to hijack, and it worked. I hijacked other likes. So, for example, Facebook banned this ad eventually, but the ad was like, are you looking for a Chinese takeaway tonight? Or are you looking for an Indian takeaway tonight? Screw that, have a Thai takeaway. And then, but Facebook doesn't like ads where you're asking a question or even using the word you. So
they seem to like less and less ads at the moment, don't they?
I know, it's ridiculous.
What they let through and what they don't let through.
Yeah.
I had one refused because I had the word drinks in it.
Yeah, I know.
Like, not alcoholic drinks, just drinks. I'm like, what?
I know, it's nuts.
Yeah, crazy.
But
crazy. Okay, brilliant. Thanks,
no worries.
Siam.
Yeah, I hope that helped. Cool. One second. I'm scrolling down the videos. So, Stuart Roberts, do you have any recommendations for where to buy silver? So, at the moment, no. Most of the bullion dealers are massively sold out. I'm selling half of my silver as we speak. All I'm doing is I'm basically, let's say I've got a whole bunch of 2015 silver Britannias. All I'll do is I'm undercutting the bullion by post price by 10%. Like, for example, someone bought a whole bunch of my Canadian maple leaves. Now, if you buy, let's say, Canadian maple leaves, you've got to pay VAT. So the average price for these maple leaves are going at like 40 odd quid at the moment. But because I'm not charging VAT and I'm undercutting by 10%, I'm selling them for like 34 quid a coin or whatever. So yeah, private message me if I can help or not, if you want. I'm aware that we're getting to the half an hour. So, and I've seen some, Bijan, you got 3 great questions here. That's going to have to be another whole session. So I'm going to have to try and copy and paste this at some point, and then do this perhaps tomorrow. I'm just scrolling down. Dean, when do you think the overall crypto market will fall? Well, I think we're going to have quick, sharp pullbacks, especially when the stock market rolls over. It's highly likely to have a big pullback. But in terms of entering another bear market, I don't think we're going to enter a massive sustained bear market like we did in 2018, because the market is now maturing rapidly. It's not like crypto's not like Bitcoin and Ether are not risky investments anymore, whereas back in 2017 they were. As I said, volatility and riskiness are not the same thing. They're still volatile, yeah, but they're not risky. So, in terms of, please watch that crypto video about why I'm expecting 100k Bitcoin, because I go through that. And typically in the first quarter of each halving, we tend to, when you're looking at the stock to flow model, we see a peak and then we have like a 50% pullback. So, I think we'll probably see our peak in the cycle within, 9 months from now, later this year, early next year. That will be the peak, and then we'll have a consolidation period. Okay, Bijan, regarding silver, he says, CoinInvest seem to be in stock, but they deliver from Germany. Oh yeah, you'll get hammered with import duty. So you'll still effectively be paying VAT, even if you're buying it VAT-free from Germany. Bullion by everyone's sold out. They really are. So, but yeah, just have a shop around. So yeah, let's call it a day there. I'm on kid duty today. It's weird. Because of my schedule, I cannot set like a set time every day for every week. 4 o'clock was all right, but every Wednesday I have the kids, so I've had to really twist my wife's arms to have the kids there. So I've got to rush off and do that now. But yes, Ken.
Quick question: whereabouts is the videos on your YouTube channel?
So if you type Siam Kid into YouTube, you'll find my channel. Then if you click videos, then you'll just see a big list of every video I've done. But I've categorized. I've got some playlists there as well. So I've got a crypto playlist. And if you scroll to the very bottom of that crypto playlist, that's where all the recent videos are. But if you for the M&A ones, look for the wealth generation chat playlist, and then you'll see a whole bunch of M&A ones. But yeah, again, hopefully today has helped folks. A non-shameless plug here. Check out thewap.org. The WAP, as in WAP.org. It's literally a Netflix for wealth generation. There's loads of different things from marketing, investing, crypto, M&A, all sorts of stuff. So check it out. It's like a free 30-day trial. Yeah, I'll happily push the WAP because everyone needs it. Everyone really does need it. Cool. Alexander, thank you. Thanks for listening. And everyone, there's good to see you all here. I've got to shoot. Love you all. I'll see you all tomorrow at 12 o'clock. God knows where I'll be.
Thanks,
Yeah, have a good one, folks. Bye.